Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondek.
Present.
Commissioner Forste-Grupp.
Here.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Here.
Commissioner Cavender.
Here.
Commissioner Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Hart.
Here.
Commissioner Wexler.
Here.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Here.
Commissioner Holmes.
Here. Chief?
To the flag. United States of America. To the republic for which it stands. One nation. Under God. Indivisible. With liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, next on our agenda is a proclamation in recognition and appreciation to all of Haverford Township's volunteer firefighters on the 100th anniversary of Fire Prevention Week. I invite Commissioners Wexler and Hart to come forward and to proclaim.
Out to me by Commissioner Trombetta several weeks ago. Fire prevention. Under that, we're blessed to have 5 fire companies represented by a chief officer. We're blessed to have this. Can't emphasize enough how much fire requires about 6 months. 6 level. All of the block, all our 5 fire companies have undergone additional boat training. NOAA is maritime. Unit with toxic materials. Rescue companies, rescue. But plus, one thing, 5 fire companies have to amend the work. Proclamation. Whereas Fire Prevention Week was started by the National Fire Protection Association in 1922 to commemorate the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Fire Prevention Week teaches children and adults how to stay safe in the event of a fire. President Calvin Coolidge proclaimed the first National Fire Prevention Week to occur from October 4th through October 10th, 1925. And whereas President Calvin Coolidge stated, this waste results from the conditions which justify a sense of shame and horror, for the greater part of it could and ought to be prevented. It is highly desirable that every effort be made to reform the conditions which have made possible so vast a destruction of national wealth, referring to Chicago at that time. Whereas the Great Chicago Fire burned between October 8th to October 10th, with most of the damage done on October 9th. The fire caused roughly $200 million in damages, killing approximately 300 people and destroying over 17,000 buildings and structures. The consequences were more than just fire damage itself, as martial law had to be declared after an outbreak of looting and lawlessness. The fire was said to have started when a cow kicked over a lantern in the O'Leary barn in the southwest side of the city. Fortunately, in 1997, the Chicago City Council passed a resolution exonerating Catherine O'Leary as well as the cow. Today, the Chicago Fire Department Training Academy is located on the site of the O'Leary property where the fire started. And whereas this year's Fire Prevention Week theme is Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape, and will be held the week of October 9th through the 15th of 2022. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Commissioners thank all 5 fire companies for answering the selfless call and educating all the youth and adults in Haverford Township and all fire prevention procedures. Proclaim this 11th day of October 2022, the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners. C. Lawrence Holmes, President. Thank Thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank all of your members for us. There's a proclamation for you to take back to all your members tonight. Jerry, if you'd help me. I'll take the Bon Air one back with me tonight. So, also, I'd like to announce that in Fire Prevention Week this week, that there are several open houses. On Thursday, the Oakmont Fire Company is having their open house for everybody to come through. And on Friday, Lanark and Brookline are having open houses. So there'll be all the firehouses, all the trucks will be open for any adult, but especially our children, to come play, get their hats, have some refreshments, candy, whatever they're giving out for Halloween, and to learn, plan that escape. So thank you very much, and thank you all to the members. Appreciate it.
All right, chiefs, if you could come forward, I think we're going to like to take a few photographs. Take a moment, a break in our meeting. Bill, you want to come back? Jerry? Yes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next on our agenda, Jack, good luck following that. Next on our agenda is Delaware County's District Attorney, Jack Stolzheimer. I've invited him, as he has been here before, and I invited him particularly this month. Jack will give us the state of things in the county, and obviously we'll discuss the uptick in crime in Haverford Township.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Commissioners, for the invitation to be here this evening. And as you know, I'm a Haverford resident, so it's always good to be home on the home field. Just briefly talk about the rise in crime across this country, and then I want to talk about the juvenile matters particularly, if you don't mind. As you all know from watching the news, there has been a rise in crime across this country. It is not as bad as portrayed in some of the TV political ads you see, but what has happened since 1991, we've had a great reduction in violent crime in this country. We're now beginning to see an uptick of that, in particular during the pandemic or after the result of the pandemic. To me, the most troubling piece of that is the number of guns that are involved in these incidents. We simply have way too many guns. During the course of the pandemic, there were gun shops throughout Delaware County and throughout this region who were sold out of guns and ammunition. We are probably the most heavily armed civil society on this planet, and too many people are using firearms to settle disputes. We see our drug task force, our countywide drug task force, almost every single job they're doing now, they're recovering firearms. Now we're seeing the prevalence of ghost guns, which are a whole new animal because they are unregistered firearms that can't be traced, but can actually be made by people who are otherwise prohibited from carrying a firearm. They can make it themselves with a 3D printer or a kit they can buy over the internet. So law enforcement is doing what we need to do. Luckily for everybody here in Haverford Township, we have one of the finest police departments in this region. They are fully mission capable in every single way possible. They're the best trained department in this region as well. And they're doing a fine job on dealing with, but they are busy. They are busy every single day dealing with calls. So that's the general state of things in our world, in the criminal justice system. But I also want to particularly address the juvenile justice problem, because I think this is really something that's been widely prevalent, and I think in large part caused because of the after effects of this pandemic, which none of us can ever fully realize what that's going to have meant to people, to humans, how it's impacted us all until years from now. But I do want to say that, recently there were some series of violent incidents here in Haverford Township. Haverford Police did a fabulous job. They worked hand in glove with my office. One of the ringleaders has already been charged with serious matters. He has been in detention in Bucks County for over a week now and will remain until such time as the juvenile court judge believes that he can be released. And I think I want to talk a little bit about what juvenile court means, but I also want to tell everybody in the community that we're also moving to make other arrests. There will be more juveniles who will be prosecuted for creating unsafe and doing unsafe criminal acts in our township. So let me just say this message to every young person who might be listening. If you are going to commit a crime as a juvenile in Haverford Township, there will be consequences. We will arrest you, we will charge you, and we will prosecute you in juvenile court to the full extent of the law. What that means is, under Pennsylvania law, juveniles between the ages of 10 and 18 are not tried in the adult criminal system. They are tried in the juvenile court system. And the whole idea of the juvenile court system is that we are going to give children who are delinquent an opportunity to be rehabilitated. So we balance in the juvenile system the need for public safety with the overwhelming need to give that child whatever services he needs or she needs to correct themselves and have a full and happy adult life. Because we have these people in our communities forever. So when they're still adults, still juveniles, and their brains are still forming, we need to make sure that, one, they understand there are consequences to their actions, and that, two, whatever supports they need, we're going to hopefully be able to get them through the juvenile court system. I also want to really give a shout out, if you don't mind, Mr. President, to the Haverford School District, who has been on top of this issue from the beginning, particularly our superintendent. My kids are juniors at Haverford High School, so I'm very familiar with our school district. Last summer, our superintendent reached out to me, as did superintendents from a cross-section of school districts in Delaware County. They requested I meet with them at the intermediate unit in July of this year because they saw one of the worst behavioral school years possible last year. The things that we learned from that meeting is that we need to try to provide even more supports as a county to our school partners. That these folks who run our schools every day are doing the Lord's work. And law enforcement and all of us as elected officials need to do whatever we can to support them. Some of that is breaking down the silos between the work we do and what the schools. They don't always know what the juvenile court system means. And so we're trying to improve communication. But we subsequently had a follow-up meeting with our superintendents, including the president judge, the judge of juvenile court, Monica Taylor, the chairperson of county council, and a wide variety of service providers. And we're going to continue this conversation because these children need our help. We have a lot of kids who are suffering from behavioral and mental health issues right now. I think that has been exacerbated by the lockdown in schools and what they've been through in the last couple of years. I see it from my kids' friends, to be honest with you. So we're going to try to do everything we can. We are limited, okay, by the number of providers. We would love to have programs. We don't have a juvenile detention center of our own in Delaware County right now. County Council is working to fix that as we speak. They're trying to get our facility relicensed. We're trying to get the Glen Mills School, if it gets licensed again, available for a day program for kids who need to be removed from the school system where they're failing right now because of their behavioral issues and put somewhere where they can succeed. So we're working together at the county level, all of us, with our schools and our school leadership to see what more services we can provide to these children. But we need the support of the community. We need your help. Haverford police are great. They can't be omnipresent. They don't know an incident is about to happen. But somebody in the community does. And so if you see something, say something is actually true. Some of you may know, but Attorney General Shapiro talked last year about the Safe to Say line that the Attorney General's office runs, which was set up to stop violence in schools. What the Attorney General Shapiro found out was 80% of those tips are about mental and behavioral health of the person making the tip. They're kids who are just desperately crying for help. All across the Commonwealth, we're seeing this. So it's a generational problem that I think has been made worse by the pandemic, but we have to get our hands around it as the adults in the room. And we're doing everything we can. We appreciate everything the Board of Commissioners do to support our police department. I know you support the school district and everything they're trying to do as well. But it's really going to take all of us working together with the parents. We're not going to arrest our way out of this problem. We're going to arrest the children who need to be arrested, get them off the street if they need to be detained. And let me just be clear for anybody who's listening, a juvenile detention facility is not a jail. What it is a facility, a secure facility where a child can be given the services he needs to calm down, to stop interacting badly as they're doing. A lot of these children are suffering from problems that are in their home life as well. So sometimes isolating these children and giving them the therapy they need at the very beginning when they're first brought into the system is critical. The one juvenile we have from Haverford, this young boy who's in Bucks County, that's what he's going through right now. We're trying to stabilize him and get him into a place where we can find the proper program to rehabilitate this kid so when he returns to our community, he becomes a productive member. So there's a lot going on. I just wanted to make sure that everybody in Haverford Township is aware that everybody at the county level, everybody knows about the issues. County Council and I last year started what's called the Healthy Kids, Healthy Schools Partnership to make sure that we're trying to better connect the behavioral health services we have with the people who need them in our schools. We're trying to map that. We're trying to geo-map right now people who use our services and people who don't. We're trying to get more service providers. Not only do we not have enough police officers and nurses in this world right now, but we certainly don't have enough mental health professionals as well. So we need to, we as a community, we as a country need to address these issues. So I've talked a lot, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that, Mr. President, but I just wanted to reassure all of you that we're all doing all we can working together, and I think the collaborative approach is going to be successful in the long run. That's sort of what we're trying to do here in Delaware County. I appreciate Commissioner Viola and Deputy Commissioner Hagan, who have been on this matter from the beginning. The investigation is continuing. You're going to see more young people charged in the coming days, and we're going to continue to do that until the behavior changes.
District Attorney Stolzheimer, we've also had an uptick in adult crime, and what we often find out is that there's a lot of, crossing county lines, crossing into Monaco, crossing into Philly. Can you tell us about the cooperation or what efforts you make with the other counties to be dealing with? Well, we had 2 armed robberies in Ardmore, right there on the frontier of Lower Merion, literally the border.
Yep.
And we know that it was reported a week later that the same perpetrator did something over in Ballackinwood. And we know there have been roving groups of people breaking into cars and stealing catalytic converters. A lot of us live with a misunderstanding of how things work. When you cross the county line, you go into another jurisdiction. Tell us about the work that you do in cooperation with other counties.
Oh, I appreciate that. We absolutely hand in glove work together in law enforcement to the best possible outcome we can. Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, Bucks County, all the district attorney's offices and all the local police departments work regionally on issues and individually on particular cases that come up. And we're all about the same mission. Candidly, I can't say the same thing about Philadelphia County right now. Philadelphia County is a problem. It's not the police department. It is the district attorney's office that is not cooperative and is setting, I think, a culture of that makes people believe. I think there are people in the city of Philadelphia who think that there are not consequences for criminal activity. That has to change. And I think all of us in the suburbs who are affected by what goes on in the city are part of that conversation. We've all been trying to have that conversation in private as much as we can. I have elected officials from the city of Philadelphia who are asking, saying to me that I wish you were our district attorney, and saying the same thing to Kevin Steele in Montgomery County. But we're all about collaboration, and we're all about keeping people safe. And we're also about doing that in a just way. So we're also at the same time trying to make sure that our criminal justice systems are reformed. Mr. President, you may know we started a central arraignment operation recently in Delaware County. So everybody who's arrested now gets the opportunity to see a public defender and have a deputy district attorney look at their case from the beginning to see whether or not we've set the proper bail. So we're hopefully not having people in our jail who don't need to be there. And we've reduced the jail population at the county jail on an average about 1/3. We used to have about 1883 always in the jail. We're down to about 1,200, 1,300. Having said that, we're trying to make sure that we're doing both ends of this bargain. We're trying to work together collaboratively. We're taking the best ideas from Montgo, Bucks, anywhere we can to make sure that we're all working together. But we do have a problem with people coming across the border from the city of Philadelphia, causing a lot of problems.
Now, Mr. District Attorney, when that happens, when somebody from Philadelphia gets caught in Haverford Township, gets caught in Delaware County or Montgomery County doing something, is there any, are they treated any differently than they would be if they lived in Delaware County?
Not at all. The jurisdiction, as you know, goes with where the crime occurred. So we treat everybody the same here. Everybody's treated with dignity and respect in the criminal justice system. And all of the, the sentences that are eventually handed down whenever somebody either pleads guilty or is convicted are usually set by the state sentencing commission. The idea being that there shouldn't be a difference whether or not you committed your crime and got convicted in Philadelphia or Elk County. We are one Commonwealth. And so, we treat everybody the same, but at the same time, we have to hopefully, over time, improve what's the situation in the city of Philadelphia. I think that is just a problem that is sort of dragging the crime in this region to a head. It's making everybody believe that you can get away with crime in the city, and some of those folks are coming out here. We actually had, just if you don't mind, we've had those ATVs come out in those waves of people who think that what they can do in the city of Philadelphia have gone through Lower Merion, they've gone into Radnor Township. Now, our police officers have been very careful in how we deal with folks like that, but we don't let those kind of things happen out here.
And I guess what I was looking for there, I think, is reassurance for our citizens that regardless of where somebody's from, if they commit a crime in Delaware County, they commit a crime in Haverford Township and they're caught, they're going to have to deal with Delaware County and have to deal with Haverford Township, and it isn't. It does not become a benefit to them to be from somewhere else or to be in another jurisdiction where there may not be consequences. There are consequences here.
Exactly right. And we take most seriously anybody who commits a crime with a firearm.
Is there, obviously in my own ward, and I don't mean to dominate this, colleagues, anybody who has any questions for District Attorney Stolzheimer, please jump in. But there was a shooting in Ardmore last year, and as I understand, there is recent development in that.
Was that the chief? Yeah. So it was after a funeral, right? And these were folks from Philadelphia. Is that the one where? Yeah. And that's exactly an example of people coming from the city into the suburbs and committing violent acts. I think we did arrest the perpetrator. Is that right?
Yes, he was just convicted.
Nice. That should send a message, I think, to your point, Mr. President. Anybody who comes from other areas and commits a crime in Delaware County, we're going to treat you well with dignity and respect, but we are also going to enforce the law. And a 20 to 40-year sentence for somebody who shot up part of our town, that's a good result. Quite honestly, that's a just result. And I'm very proud of the work that Haverford PD. I think I was on scene with the chief that night. When things like that happen in our town, all hands on deck. I know I've seen commissioners as well. We're all troubled when anything happens. This is a very tight community, not just Haverford Township, but Delaware County. It seems like we all do know and care about each other. And so it's very frightening when something like that does take place. And I'm glad we were able to get that result because of great police work.
Do any of our colleagues have any questions for District Attorney Stolzheimer?
I do have a question. If you could maybe let people know, I've received a lot of phone calls and communication from concerned parents. And they're concerned with regards to the juvenile action that's recently occurred in the township, specifically in the sense that some of the parties that are involved aren't exactly, let's just say, new to the radar. And they've been reaching out to me trying to find out how can they best stay involved in terms of hearing what's going on with these particular people and how it's working its way through the system and how it's being handled, because they're concerned about the safety of their children as they walk around the township, ride their bikes around the township, and congregate as just regular good kids. And obviously there's certain privacy issues because they are minors. Yeah. But if you could just speak a little bit to how they can best stay informed of kind of the follow-up to what's been going on.
Yeah, Commissioner, you're absolutely right. There is privacy issues. So in juvenile court, we don't even release the names of defendants. People in the community do not know what the end result is. And sometimes people don't understand. In juvenile court, what you're charged with and what you're found delinquent don't really matter. right? What you're charged with the crimes that we believe you committed. The end result is we need to get the child into placement. So oftentimes there are results where somebody makes a admission to a delinquent charge that may not be the highest offense charged in that case, but it moves the case forward and gets the child immediately into placement. I would just try to stay in touch with Haverford Police. I don't want to put John on the spot, but probably the best way to know what's going on in your community is having contact with your police officers. These guys know more about what goes on in the community than anybody else. And we can't always, like I said, share the details about a particular case. But if you call Haverford PD, they will do the best. We will do the best we can to share information with them. And the other commissioner, my children are always on Instagram and all this stuff, and so all of these things swirl in the social media world with these children. So when somebody is convicted or when somebody is removed and charged, I think the word gets out amongst those kids. And I want that to be happening. I want these children to know that we're on the case.
Well, thank you, Mr. District Attorney.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate
President.
your time, and
Thank you
look
all,
forward to seeing you again. It is now time for our Citizens Forum. I will call Mr. Walker. Mr. Hall.
Good evening. My name is Todd Hall, and I'm here tonight to advise of my concern related to the assault and battery that occurred to youth in the community the weekend of September 28th, 2022. I thank the police for their efforts. After heard the presentation from the district attorney, I thank you for your efforts. However, I am concerned about a lack of responsive concern from the township commissioners, as I subscribe to commissioner email updates, but have not received any evidence of concern about this matter. I've received feedback from a commissioner about a school shooting in Texas and the relationship of gun laws to it. While this was an extremely sad, disturbing, and troublesome event, it did not occur in Haverford Township. There have been events related to guns in our township, and I was glad to see the commissioner praise the response of our police when responding to a gun-related mental health event at the Quarry Center. I'm not sure why I haven't heard an expression of concern on this recent incidents of violence. This board is very vocal on issues that involve guns, plastic bags, which is of concern but better handled at the state level, abortion, which is not a township matter, please review the Constitution, and LGBTQ. Now, speaking of the last topic mentioned, our township commissioners passed the resolution in the past summer to state that, quote, all people are welcome in Haverford Township to live, work, and play, and every family, in whatever configuration, deserves a place to call home and feel safe, happy, and supported. I would urge you, instead of passing resolutions about people who already have numerous protections in the law and should be, and almost always are, treated with respect by others, to express more concern that everyone here deserves a place to be safe from physical violence of any type, for any reason. If this issue of crime is of concern to the commissioners, they should make this known to their constituents instead of republishing police department press releases. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Ms. Ravilla?
Hello, my name is Yolanda Revilla, and I live in Havertown. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am here to express concern over gun violence in our communities. This is a problem that affects all of us. As a mother, it is particularly painful to see how gun violence kills innocent children, especially in schools, at extracurricular activities, or simply playing outside. It is hard to feel like our children are completely safe to thrive as they should, both physically and psychologically. This is certainly an important issue on the national level, but one that requires action locally as well. I am very glad to hear DA Stolzheimer speak, as I know he and his office are working diligently to keep Delaware County safe, along with the police department. I would like to encourage the board to also do all they can to support common sense gun laws that would keep firearms out of the hands of those who mean harm to others and to themselves, to provide our schools with the resources they need to prevent school-based gun violence, and to promote responsible and safe gun ownership in our township. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Eli? Is it Eli or Ely?
Ely.
Ely. Mr. Ely.
Good evening, everyone. I didn't write anything down formally. I'm a 48-year resident of the township. I'm vice president of the Haverford Hawks. I contacted you guys. I'm up here to speak about what happened over the weekend of the 25th, the violence with the kids. Me and my sons were personally confronted, as you two know, right, at Kaufmeyer's on Sunday, the 25th. We walked over to the stadium. We live on Valley Road, 3 blocks. I'm at the stadium 8 days a week. We walked over, watched the end of St. Joe's Newman hockey game, went to the ice cream shop, and me and my 3 boys, we were confronted by probably 15 to 18 of those kids wearing masks, pantyhose, hoodies, like out of place. And the things they were saying, I won't say in front of all you guys. I get off the ice at 9:30 over here tonight, if any of you guys want to hear the full story. My kids want to move out of the township because of that crap that went on. The one kid confronted me personally, and he had a shank in his belt loop, as I emailed you two and Chief Viola. I called 911. My kids ran into the store, called my wife to pick us up, because we couldn't walk 3 blocks home to our house, which we do all the time. Go inside, my wife picks us up. These kids go back to the stadium because they found somebody. That's what they were yelling. I won't repeat what they were saying because my kids were scared. My wife they didn't even want to drive by the stadium to go home because now there's about 30 of them out front. We get to our house, the kids crying, 3 of them, 14, 13, and 11, want to move out of the township, want to move to Marple Township. I walked to the top of the street because I'm on Valley. I could see the stadium. They're all still there. 16 minutes later, I call 911 again. See something, say something, right? No cops. They're still all there. We all know what happened later in the evening to one of the freshmen at Haverford, right? I call an officer I know, a neighbor. He's working in Wynwood. Couldn't do anything. I call another officer that I coach his son. He only works Monday through Friday. He couldn't do anything. He didn't hear anything about this. Still no police. I go back inside. I send an email to a commissioner and the chief of police. The commissioner gets back to me. The chief's away. Fast forward, the next day I pick my son up from school. He's not even at Haverford. And part of the reason is because I come over to the ice rink after this, guys. I'm off at 9:30. I'm missing 2 practices right now. And I'll give you the full story. He says one of his friends got beat up that night. Well, I reported that this kid had a stick sharpened in his belt loop. The kid that got in my face wasn't wearing a mask. I'll never forget his face. Yeah, and believe me, it took everything in me not to. I know who the kid is now. My kids know who he is, but my kids don't even want to walk to school or to the ice rink where they play hockey. Like 5 days a week. My disappointment is see something, say something, correct? The next day, Haverford Township put on their Facebook page, if you see anything that happened over the weekend, give us a call. The 1298, extension 1230, left a voicemail, never heard back. One of the commissioners I emailed said they're looking into it. He wasn't aware of what happened over the weekend. We all knew what happened Friday night, the kids, and it wasn't just that weekend. I'm at the rink, like I said, all the time. They've been out there for a month now. I get a message from somebody, the father of the kid that got assaulted, wanting the video. I happen to have the video. I sent it to him. Him and I had a good conversation. The next day, Haverford Township Police put a different post on their Facebook page that get in touch with us if you have anything over what happened over the weekend. I called, left a voicemail again. Never heard back. I heard the father and a mother were having a press conference here at the stadium. I was at work. I left work at the end of my day. I happened to drive to Brookline Boulevard. Joe Holden, CBS 3, was here. I stopped Joe and had a good conversation with him, told him my story, what happened, that I was more disappointed that nobody contacted me. Nobody responded. See something, say something, right? I thought I was doing the right thing. If I would have fought that kid, my kids would have watched it, and 15 of those thugs would have been fighting me, and one would have been videoing. I did the right thing, I thought. So I go home, I put on the news, and there's one of our commissioners. I email him. 5 minutes later, I get an email back. Tom, call me. I called the commissioner. I'm on the phone with him, and a detective calls me. Another detective calls me. The officer that I coach his son texted me 6 times. It took me driving home. Let me stop at Brookline Boulevard. And this reporter happened to be there, and until I got something back. So then, a couple days later, I'm in the rink. The skating, the guy that does skating lessons stopped me, said that whole group came in there Sunday night when that freshman was assaulted. They walked on the ice in their shoes, came on the bench. There's a video camera system up there that you subscribe to. You can watch your kids' games. I saw it. They went in. It was the same kids. I called that number again, left a voicemail saying, if I could see it on the camera system, the stadium has very good security camera. They're the guys that beat that kid up, that confronted me. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. You guys stand up here and say, if dogs are barking, call 911. If someone's blocking your driveway, call 911. I called 911 twice. The one detective said to me, well, you got to say you want to see an officer. Thank God those kids let off the freshman that was getting beat up. They yelled cops, and they all let off him. Because that shank that was in that kid, that's the kid that confronted me. What else did they have? We talk about a shooting in Lower Marion. We could be at the kid's funeral now, and Haverford Township will be all over the news. So I'm disappointed that a cop, from the time I sat there, 8:02 I called 911, 8:16 I called again. I stood up at the corner of my house till my wife brought me back inside and said, you got to come inside. My kids are frightened. My kids, we're not letting them go to the football games. We're not letting them walk the Kaufmeyers. 3 blocks from our house. I'm just disappointed. It was great this weekend. 4 bike cops were out here. But I'm disappointed that no one got back to me. I understand, Chief, you're away, but I was told that Chief Hagan was covering for him. And there's so many videos and things out there. These kids are still in school. And it's just disappointing that you say something, say something, and no one has done, on my end, no one has gotten back to me. And I know for a fact these kids are in school. My kids don't want to live in this township anymore because of that. So see something, say something, what happens? I do the right thing, right? Call 911, and nothing happens. Guys, I apologize. I didn't write anything down. I got practice over there. I get off the ice at 9:30. If any of you guys want to come over, Chief, Mr. Hart, Connor, any of you guys want to. All right?
Thank you, Mr. Ridley. At this point, I can invite any members of the public up who would like to speak on an agenda item this evening. Is there anybody here on the left side of the room who would like to speak on an agenda item? Mr. Dolan?
Good evening, board members. Mike Dolan from Manor Road. I believe there is a 1801 subdivision presented to you tonight, which was denied last time you saw it. Supposedly, there's been a settlement on it. As far as I know, we've never seen any on and I'm representing the street, I guess. I've requested at least to review it. I'm not saying I'm against it or for it, but I have no knowledge of
what settlement they might be talking about. So, short of actually seeing it, maybe you have, I would request an adjournment on voting on it until at least the neighbors, if that's possible, can review what the settlement is all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dolan. Is there anybody else on this side of the room who would like to speak on an agenda item? Is there anybody on this side of the room who would like to speak on an agenda item? Okay, that concludes our citizens forum. Mr. Hall, thank you for your comments. Ms. Ravilla as well, thank you. Mr. Ely, believe he left. Mr. Dolan, we will be getting to that item on the agenda. It's the 14th item on our agenda. At that point, I know that our township solicitor will be discussing the terms that are appropriate for the public of that settlement, and hopefully any questions you have will be addressed. We will now move on to the Township Auditor update. Mr. Anderson.
First off, I have to say, let's go Phillies. Great win today. I have reviewed the expenditures and warrants for this meeting. I found no irregularities, and all my questions were answered to my satisfaction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Uncharacteristically reticent tonight.
Well, I wanted to make a joke about everybody having the Phillies game on in the laptops, but then they had an afternoon game instead.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, tomorrow. Maybe the zoning board will do it. We now move to Mr. Berman's manager update. Mr. Berman.
Thank you. Just a few things. First, our Director of Paramedics and Emergency Medical Services, Jim McCanns, was able to schedule another Delaware County Health Department COVID booster clinic here at the township. It'll be in this room on Wednesday, November 2nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You need to register online. So we'd like you to go to the county's health department's website and register. It's open to everyone. So if you need a booster or you need information about getting a booster and which one you're ready to get, go ahead to their website and you can get all the information you need there. Also want to talk a little bit about Aqua's work here on Manoa Road. As most, if not all of you know, last week Aqua informed us that they needed to do some final restoration after installation of the water main on Manoa Road. And so the area of Manoa Road, just north of Westchester Pike, is a concrete surface. And that concrete surface, according to PennDOT, needs to be restored as a concrete surface. And because of that fact, PennDOT and Aqua have closed Manoa Road largely in that area, except for access, of course, to the church and the school there. And that'll take place this week. It takes 3 days for that concrete to cure. So they're working on the restoration now, and they're expecting at this point that they'll be on schedule for reopening Manoa Road on Friday at 9 a.m. And then they need to move on to the other areas where they're working. That's Westchester Pike and other portions of Manoa Road. And as you probably know, once the weather gets too cold, they can't do the asphalt work for the mill paving and overlay that they need to do. So we're going to try to help them move forward as quickly as possible to get that work done this season. At the current time, the Westchester Pike work is scheduled to take place at night. If temperatures get too cold, we may have to work around that a little bit. Manoa Road, on the other hand, would be resurfaced during the day, and they would have flaggers to direct folks around those areas. So all of this is kind of a work in progress, I guess, pun intended, and that'll be done probably within the next month is what we're looking at. So again, Manoa Road opened this Friday, and those other areas will be in progress for the next several weeks. And we're hoping again to get that done, or that Aqua will get that done by the end of this season. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. Does anybody have any questions for our township manager? Okay, we move on to approval of the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of September 12th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any amendments or comments, additions or deletions? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Our next item on the agenda is motion to appoint independent auditors for the finance department. I'm like, oh, yep.
Skipped ahead. Approval of warrants. Motion.
Oh, did I miss approval of warrants? I'm
Yeah, motion to approve the following warrant, 10/2022, totaling $4,532,104.40. General and sewer fund payroll for September 15th, 2022, in the amount of $706,601.64. General and sewer fund payroll for September 29th, 2022, in the amount of $716,138.66. General fund disbursements, 10/2022, in the amount of $1,939,872.42. Sewer fund disbursements, 10/2022, in the amount of $172,105.26. Community Development Block Grant Fund disbursement, 10/2022, in the amount of $74,342.87. Capital Projects Fund disbursement, 10/2022, in the amount of $604,879.31. American Rescue Plan Fund disbursement, 10/2022, in the amount of $304,129.15. Credit card statement ending September 27th, 2022, in the amount of $14,035.09.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Does any commissioner have any questions, comments, additions, deletions? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Now we'll move to the motion to appoint independent auditors for the township.
Motion to appoint Maley LLP of Limerick, PA, submitting the lowest responsible proposal in the amount of $115,503, a 3-year fee to perform the annual independent audit of the township's financial statements for the years ending December 31st, 2022, 2023, and 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? I know this was discussed at our work session last week. As people may or may not be aware, it is required by law for us to appoint new auditors after so many years, and that is why we're appointing. That's why we are considering the recommendation of Maley LLP as our auditors for the 2022, 23, and 24 year. Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next on our agenda, ordinance number P14, 2022. I will consider a motion for the sale of a cell tower.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to adopt the second reading of ordinance P14, 2022, that the township manager shall execute a letter of intent and any other related paperwork to the highest bidder, TIGR Acquisitions 3, LLC, through Tower Point of Atlanta, submitting a bid of $3,450,000, subject to review by the township solicitor, for the conveyance of an easement and the transfer of a communication tower located upon the township property at the address of 3500 Darby Road, also known as 9000 Parkview Drive, also known as 0 Marple Road, Haverford, Pennsylvania, 19041, and all appurtenant antennas, cabinets, buildings, signage, ice bridges, fences, gates, and facilities related to the communications tower.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments or,
I have a question. How much did we originally think that we would sell the cell tower for? I'm sorry, Amy's not here. I don't know, Dave, if you
It was
remember.
roughly, original bid was roughly about 2.1 or $2.2 million.
Right, so we got a really good price for this,
Correct.
bringing in about $1.5 million more than we thought. Great. Thank you to township staff.
any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Hearing none?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next item on our agenda, ordinance number P17 of 2022, traffic.
Motion to adopt a second reading of ordinance number P17, 2022, authorizing traffic restrictions on the following highways. Establish special purpose parking in front of 100 Hastings Avenue. Stop signs on Warren Avenue, direction of travel east at intersection of Chester Avenue. On Warren Avenue, direction of travel west at intersection of Chester Avenue.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next for our consideration, ordinance number P18, 2022, amending Chapter 104, Housing Codes. This is a first reading. I will entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance P18, 2022, amending Chapter 104, Housing Standards, Section 104-11, quote, inspections prior to occupancy required fee to provide for additional inspection standards in Section 104-13, renamed fire and life safety requirements to provide for additional requirements for fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, fire alarm systems, fire doors, exit signs, and lighting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? I know this was discussed last week in our work session. Hearing none?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next for our consideration is a resolution number 2279 of 2022. This is Act 57 of 2022, amending the local tax collection law.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2279, 2022, a resolution of Haverford Township, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, requiring the elected tax collector to waive additional charges for real estate taxes where notice of the real estate taxes was not received beginning in tax year 2023. Repealing all inconsistent resolutions or parts thereof, providing a severability clause, and providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date, subject to the requirements within the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for this resolution. Any questions or comments?
Just to reiterate what Amy said at our work session last week, this is required under this new state law, but what it does is that if someone moves within a calendar year and the tax bills, because they are processed by various entities, are then sent to a former resident or they're not received by the new resident, it doesn't waive the actual taxes that are due. It just waives any fees or penalties that would be due for late fees if they attest that they did not receive the bill. So it's something coming from the state and something that seems to make logical sense.
Thank you. Commissioner McCluskey, any other questions or comments? Hearing none?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender,
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Hart,
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler,
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta,
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. The next part of our agenda deals with agreements and contracts. First one for us to consider is legal. It is a motion to approve settlement agreement of a matter pending in Delaware County Court of Common Pleas, Sleepy Valley Holdings LLC, and Catherine Malloy versus Haverford Township and the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners.
So moved.
And,
Second.
can I have can I have John explain the settlement to what he can explain?
Yes, Commissioner Quinn, let me preface that with two things. We do not, as a rule, have the solicitor. The solicitor is the lawyer to the Board of Commissioners, not the lawyer to Haverford Township. And what our solicitor does is provides us legal advice, and the solicitor and that legal advice is cloaked in attorney-client privilege. That said, this is a settlement agreement that has some public elements to it, which are appropriate to discuss in the public. But I need to remind everybody, when something comes before us, the first time something like this comes before us, the public can comment. We have the board deliberates, the board votes. After that, when it becomes a lawsuit within Haverford Town, within the Court of Common Pleas, Haverford Township and the Haverford Township Board becomes the party at that point in the case. And Haverford Township, we as a board have to at that point consider not just the considerations of people who spoke for or against the development, but at that point we have to take advice from our counsel, and we have to consider township-wide considerations and ramifications when we're deciding whether or not to continue with or settle litigation. That said, I invite our solicitor Walco to describe those terms of the agreement that are appropriately disclosable and without any waiver of the attorney-client privilege that relates to all of his advice to this board in this matter.
Thank you, President Holmes. Yes, I will briefly touch upon the matters that are appropriate for the public related to this settlement. As you stated, this is a settlement or proposed settlement and general release on a land use appeal, with the parties being Haverford Township and this Board of Commissioners that was filed by the landowner of 1801 Manor Road and the developer of that property. As you may recall, this was before the board back in May, and at that time the board then did deny the proposed plan. Shortly thereafter, a timely land use appeal was filed in the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas, where in that appeal they took the position that the decisions of the board to deny that plan were arbitrary and capricious and subjecting them to harm. After that time, it was conferenced with Judge Bradley in the Court of Common Pleas, where I was able to sort of review more the merits and try to get a sense of how the court was accepting this appeal. After that conference, after a review of the case law, it was my opinion that it would be best to move forward with a settlement agreement of this matter for this board's consideration. I did, at that time, have some communications with the neighbors in an attempt to obtain some feedback. Although certainly, as you stated, President Holmes, the client in this matter is the township, and this appeal is a township-wide matter. But it does have that impact on the neighbors. I obtained some feedback. I attempted to negotiate with the appellants, the landowner, and the developer who was represented at the time and still represented, to try to get, sort of make the best of what we could under the situations that we were faced, and trying to know what we could gain from this that would be important to the local neighbors. So there are a number of matters to this appeal that certainly would, if approved, would have this plan go through the path that any plan would need to go through to make sure that it was properly drafted, properly recorded, that all of the necessary agreements and easements are in place. So hopefully, if approved, it would go through additional staff review from our engineers and our zoning officer. As far as the more pertinent matters of how it affects the neighborhood, is that the appellants have agreed to dedicate an additional 15 trees, that's 15 trees, to Haverford Township, and that's for off-premises planting, as it's been determined that this site would not be able to fit additional plantings on the location and still be in line with our ordinances. So they are dedicating 15 trees to the township for areas to be planted where the township feels it to be best positioned for the public. Those trees would have to be dedicated and installed to comply with the planting and tree replacement standards of the township. So any trees that would be removed, the equivalency of our code dedication would then have to be returned to the township. In addition, they will be installing 2 trees along the neighboring property at 1809 Manor Road. That might have already been in the plan, but of course that would be with the neighbor's permission where that property is located. So that's significantly more trees. That wasn't a condition of the original plan. So that is an addition that wasn't previously before this board at the time that resolution came up. The second, more pertinent matter, I believe that would be of importance to the neighbors, is that if the settlement's approved, they are agreeing that the front facade of the home that would be built on that newly subdivided lot would incorporate a significant portion of a stone facade in an attempt to at least match the front of the houses or be in line with the other houses along Manor Road. They're also agreeing that the house, once constructed, will have a gabled roof in order to, again, make it more in line with the rest of the houses that are on Manor Road, and that they will agree that the orientation of that home will also face Manor Road, much like the rest of the houses along that block. And again, the concept here is to try to put some constraints upon what could be or have been an outside the box, odd shapely house that would be within the building footprint that might seem out of place. These restraints ensure that whatever would be built there is more in line with the streetscape. Those are I think the pertinent conditions that would be of interest to the public. If this is approved by this board, it would then be executed by me and then sent to the other parties for agreement. They have agreed to these terms so far. I've been speaking with their attorneys, so I think it would be acceptable to them. It would then be submitted as an order of a court to release and settle this matter. And at that point in time, that plan would be deemed approved and then proceed with the more internal reviews prior to finalization and recording. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Walko.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Walko. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Quinn.
If this is agreed and this goes online or tomorrow, so everybody that lives around there will be able to see it, right?
Once it's a finalized approved agreement, yes, by the township, it would become a public document. It also probably will also be recorded with the court. It would be within the court docket as well.
And what if the neighborhood, like over there, what if they have some issues, and would they be able to file a suit, and what would happen if that happened?
Well, they always have an ability, if there's anything that's done outside of the law, to bring their own private claims. One of the issues facing the township on this particular matter is that the project is in line with the codes and the zoning codes, and for the items that it was not within the zoning code, they obtained zoning relief from the zoning hearing board, I believe back on February 4th. So by the time this came before council for approval, all of those zoning issues had been resolved by the zoning hearing board, and no longer able to say that it could be denied based upon that lack of compliance, because that relief was already obtained.
Thank you, John.
Any other commissioners or have any questions or comments? Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
No.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
No.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. The next item on our agenda, a motion to approve an independent contractor agreement with PAR Recycle Works of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for services related to seasonal leaf collection.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments or discussion from my colleagues?
Just a brief comment. I would just highlight to everyone that everyone here today and watching, that since we are entering leaf season, the leaf pickup schedule is posted right on the township's website. And it is coming up, it's coming up soon. It starts basically the end of October. So please check out the schedule, and, make sure that, you're aware of when your wards are getting picked up.
I'd also like to point out, when we talked about violence, we have worked with PAR Recycle Works for the last couple of years. They're the firm that also does our electronic recycling here at the township, and they are an agency that was founded by a local Drexel Hill resident years ago to help those that have been released from prison to find gainful employment. As you probably know, it's probably a lot easier to find employment when you're gainfully employed. So they gainfully employ those people coming back into their citizen's role and do that. And I can tell you firsthand, I've used them at a school that I worked as the IT director for 2 years for our electronic recycling and computer destruction of hard drives and everything. And the people there have been outstanding. The program is a success story, and I'm proud to say that we're using them and to assist our public works department as well, because as you know, it's an all hands on deck. We wouldn't get it done with just everybody coming out of this building and starting to rake leaves and put them in the trucks for. So that's the other reason that it's a great company for us to be partnering with. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Wexler. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to award an emergency repairs to the sanitary storm sewer contract to Eagle Contracting, Downingtown, Pennsylvania, in the amount of $847,787.50, submitting the lowest responsible bid.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler. Yes. Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. We now move on to contracts within the Parks and Recreation Department. We'll consider a motion for the Jest Tract.
Mr. President, a motion to authorize Tarquini and Sons Paving, Springfield, Pennsylvania, to resurface lot at Guest Tract in the amount of $13,260, submitting the lowest responsible quote. Funding is from the ARPA money.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. The
Mr.
next item involves the CREC and a walk-behind scrubber.
Mr. President, motion to authorize the purchase of a walk-behind scrubber and battery watering kit from Hilliard, Warminster, Pennsylvania, under CoStar's contract 005-057 in the amount of $17,466, funding from the capital budget.
Second.
Any questions or comments other than my perplexion at a battery watering kit? Anything? I know we did discuss this last week.
I mean, I think it just runs on a battery in there.
Well, anyway, I trust people to use this safely. Hearing no questions or comments, and certainly hearing nothing intelligent, I will now ask our township manager to call the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. We now move to the continuation of Citizens Forum for non-agenda items. This is where anybody in the audience who can speak on any topic as they'd like. I ask them to try to limit their comments to 3 minutes or so. I will start on the left. Is there anybody on the left side of the room here who'd like to speak? Yes, come on up. Well, the issue is from back there, we will not be able to, the audience won't be able to hear you, and that is the price of speaking,
Yeah,
is
it's
that.
very embarrassing. So, the biggest news in Havertown was the incident with the teenagers, correct? It was on the news, it was everywhere, the gang violence, and all. My kid was affected, his friends were affected. It was on the news, I wrote you all a letter about it, and I'm sure you guys all hated it. I did hear from Connor, and I talked a lot about it, and Laura, you answered me. I know that you all probably got in touch with your neighbors as well. So I showed up here tonight thinking, you know, since that was the biggest news, the police were involved, all of us were affected. I'm sure you all have heart. You pictured your own children. I mean, it was horrifying, horrifying. And if I don't cry, it'll be a miracle. Why wasn't this on the agenda? Like, why? What does it take to get it on an agenda? I mean, this is with all due respect. Why isn't this not an agenda item? I know it is a safety issue in the police. Why aren't we discussing it at the board meeting? Why is it just up to the citizens? And I mean that, so if you could answer that.
No, I appreciate it. We're going to answer that question. I do have to ask you to identify yourself.
Oh, I'm
for the
Megan
record.
Donahue. Hi, I live on Fairfield Road.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Donahue.
Okay. Can I sit?
Yes, you are excused. And I will answer your question in a moment, as will any other commissioner. But first, let me just see if anybody else has any questions or comments. Does anybody on this side of the room have any questions or comments? Oh, yes, sir. And if you would.
Tom Stack in Ward 5. And I just wanted, last week I went home after there was all the discussion about communications from the commissioners to the public. And on my way home, I thought, you know, felt a little guilty because our communication from Laura has been extremely on the target. We get notifications of the police reports, we get notifications of commissioner meetings. Whenever there's snow removal problems or street shutdowns, whatever else, we're getting full communication. So I just wanted to commend her on that, let everybody know that at least in Ward 5, we're getting excellent communication.
Well, thank you very much for telling us that, Mr. Stack. Is there anybody here on the right who'd like to say anything? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Lorraine Williams. I'm in Ward 2 on South Eagle Road. I just wanted to express that I am very troubled by the violence in our community, and I really don't feel safe here the way that I used to. My children are all grown, but if I had young children, I probably wouldn't give them money to go buy an ice cream or go down the street and get a soda or hang out with their friends. My sons used to play ice hockey at the stadium. I'd probably be there waiting to pick them up, watching for them. I wouldn't let them hang out. So I'm sorry that we have this problem here, and I certainly hope that everything will be done to address it. I do thank the police. I have a great respect for the police. I do thank you very much. I couldn't quite hear what the last lady said, but she seemed to be troubled that this topic wasn't on the agenda. When I heard her say that, that's what prompted me to get up. I didn't expect to say anything, but I'm very troubled by that. This is a terrible event. This should be, I think, on the agenda. But I did want to say that I do receive updates from my commissioner, and I read them with interest. There's a lot of information there, and she characterized the events as several incidences of bullying and fighting. I had heard a little bit what happened, and I knew that it was more than bullying. And I just want to say that my sense is that there's an attitude of suppression here. And I think that we should be honest and open with the information about the reality of what is happening, because people are going to need to take measures to protect themselves in a way that maybe they never used to have to do. Simple things, really, but things that never really occurred to me before about having to watch out for my own personal safety here in Haverford Township. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to get to you. Is there anybody else here on the left who'd like to speak? Is there anybody on the right who'd like to speak? Yes.
I live on Manor Road, ironically, so I was involved in two things tonight.
Can you
but
identify yourself?
Nicole Baker. I am also here to speak about the violence going on in our town. My son also and his friends were affected by things. Since we live so close to both Wawas, my kids like to walk around. I grew up here. I went to Haverford High School. It's always been a safe place, and I have not felt comfortable myself when my kids want to go out after dark, and my kids are teenagers, and it's upsetting, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else than here. And I love where we live, and I love, you know, all the people that make it what it is. But like the woman just said, I don't know, it was kind of like hush hush. And the more, I mean, we used the different apps, Safe to Say. We contacted our friends who were police officers to talk about what's happening. And just like Mr. Ely, who said something, I mean, my kids are deathly afraid to speak up for what's right and what's wrong because they're afraid for their safety. And I find that appalling. It is just sad. And we need to speak up and we need to do something. I mean, I contacted the principals and I said, what can be done? Are there cameras on the fields? Are there police security? Are there all of the things? And I mean, I understand they're probably inundated, but still, like, we need to make a plan. And there's plenty of parents here that are happy to support the township, the police, the school district, and assist if we need to, because this is where we live and this is where we're raising our family. We all want to feel safe. So thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Yeah, my name is Jim Brown. I live on East Manoa Road. At last month's commissioners meeting, I was astonished to hear township residents lambaste the commissioners for failing to notify them about the purpose, process, and current status of the township's comprehensive plan. They blamed the commissioners for failing to keep citizens apprised of the planning process and seemed to think that each of them should have been personally contacted regarding the plan's process. As a person who subscribes to two of the commissioners' email newsletters, reads the township's newsletter, which is sent by U.S. mail, and looks at the minutes of commissioners' meetings, each of which has covered the comprehensive plan for many months, I was surprised that these citizens were not informed on this issue. Admittedly, I am more interested in the commissioners' actions than most. But the fact is, being an informed citizen is not a passive process. It requires each of us to spend some time and energy to keep track of what is going on in the township, to be aware of what will be affecting us now and in the future. On this issue, the township and the commissioners have provided plenty of information on the comprehensive plan and have repeatedly sought input from township residents. So any charges that the township is creating this plan in the dark, attempting to hide what is in the plan, are totally nuts. I do have one gripe about the township's provision of information. I went on the township's website to confirm what the plan is called. but there is no top-level link to the plan. I had to find the search function at the bottom of the page and to search for the plan. And to search, I needed to know the actual name that it is called, right? Comprehensive plan, not the strategic plan or the long-term plan or some other credible name. Something this important to residents merits a link on the homepage, like leaf collection and other critical features. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I'm actually looking at the township website right now where it was linked on the front page, but I think you're right that link. So it's in Havertown News. Oh. I really should have done this before I started addressing you.
Why don't you answer the other questions first, and
I'm
somebody
going
else can
to,
do that.
but what I'm going to say first and foremost is thank you for bringing that to our attention, because I not having a not dissimilar experience as you and finding the comprehensive plan directly on the page, and that will be remedied immediately. With regard to tonight's agenda, I would. A couple of things I want to address, and thank you for your comments and for the question about what was on tonight's agenda. Within the last 2 weeks, there at least 4 of the 9 commissioners held constituent town halls that had a significant amount of time was dedicated to presentations by our police department. Our work session last week contained, as it always does, a direct report from our chief and a much lengthier report last week talking about what had happened and talking about the consequences of what had happened, including by then what had been some the products of the investigations, and even by then the arrest and detention of one of the perpetrators. And District Attorney Stolzheimer was invited and appeared on the agenda tonight specifically to address the crime that was happening. We did not have a specific ordinance tonight to consider for purposes of passing as a board tonight. The crimes that were committed by not only the juvenile, by the adults that have committed crimes in the last, let's say the last year, they are already crimes in our ordinances or in our state code. We already have a curfew that's in place in the township. So there wasn't a specific action item for the township to take in terms of official action with regard to this recent wave of crime, other than to bring to the meetings people that are best equipped to deal with that, which is our PD and our district attorney himself, not just representatives of the district attorney's office. And I know that each commissioner has done whatever each commissioner undertakes. I'm not going to speak for them right now, to inform the public about what is happening. And to make sure that we, as a board, one of the first questions we asked as this revealed itself, is the question we asked to our own police department is there something you need? Is there anything that you lack? Or is there any message you are getting from this board or from township staff that is holding you back from doing your jobs and addressing this crime? And the answer was no. We're dealing with the crimes. We have the resources that we need, and we have the laws that we can enforce right now. I regret that the lack of an item on this agenda could be misinterpreted as a lack of concern by anyone on this board. We are all residents of this township. We are all parents and brothers and sisters and children of Haverford residents, and we're all personally affected by this crime wave. And I can assure everybody here, and I'm sure my fellow commissioners will each individually agree, that we all take this very seriously. And want to make sure that it's addressed in the best possible way that it can. So I I don't know if that's a satisfactory explanation as to why it was not on the agenda, but I would not want anyone to believe that because it did not appear on the agenda, it was not something we didn't expect to hear from people tonight and to listen to, and hopefully to provide responses from our PD and from our police department and from our district attorney himself. If any of my other colleagues would like to address this specific issue, I invite them to now as opposed to at the end of the meeting. But I hope that at least answers your question if it doesn't satisfy you or any of you who have any concerns about that.
I'd like to make a quick comment.
Yeah, I mean, I thought so, but go ahead. Yes, Ms. Kavanagh.
So you and I, as you know, had a town hall meeting last week. We were joined by Chief Viola, Deputy Chief Hagan. We spent about 2.5 hours, Larry, talking with residents from wards 5 and 6 about, it was an open forum on all topics. The issue of crime came up quite a lot, and it wasn't surprising to any of us. And also, I mean, Larry said it perfectly. I mean, I also fully support the police department, support them. I was really pleased to see Jack tonight, our DA. And so I guess I would just say, we're going to keep you all as informed as we can on this. And it's also an ongoing investigation. I think that's important to note as well. That's all I have to say on crime.
Thank you, Commissioner Cavender. Is there anybody else who'd like to specifically address this before we move on?
Yes, actually, rather than handling it at the end of the meeting, and since we're talking about it now, if I can, with regards to the events that have occurred over the last few weeks, few months, involving juveniles in this township, these events have been truly disturbing, truly gut-wrenching, and in certain regards, despicable. No child should ever live in fear. No child should ever have to worry about walking to the store or walking to school or walking to or from an after-curricular activity or sport. And unfortunately, the events of the last few weeks have caused a lot of children to live to a degree in fear. I'm a parent of 4 children myself, 3 in the high school and 1 in the middle school, and I can represent to you that unfortunately, out of concern for my children's safety, myself and my wife, have actively rearranged their schedules and put some restrictions on them that are through no fault of their own. And I look forward to being able to kind of move these changes and remove these restrictions that have been put in place. And I think that not the easiest, but the best way to move forward in that regard kind of relies on a quote a good friend of mine who's a pediatrician says often, is that, when it comes to children, it takes a village. And I truly believe that that's a very accurate statement. And I think that all of us here need to understand that we all have to work together in order to make this township, not make it, but allow it to continue to be the best place that you can live, work, and most importantly, probably raise a family. And in that regard, I encourage people to come to the commissioners' meetings and to voice their concerns and to let us know about things that are going on in their individual blocks and neighborhoods. I also encourage the same people to go to the school board's meetings and to voice their concerns at those school board meetings also. Again, the township and the school board are separate political entities, and we have different jurisdictions and there's different involvements we have with your children. So I encourage you to participate in those meetings just as much. But probably most importantly, I encourage everyone here to talk to their children. And the reason I say that is because, children, when they're faced with situations like this, they may be hesitant to volunteer information, to affirmatively go to their parents or their neighbors or their friends and say something. But when questioned or asked about it specifically, are more inclined to relay that information. And the quicker that that information is relayed to us as adults, the quicker that we can take collective action to address that. So again, I really encourage people to get engaged and to stay engaged. Um, could the could the township's communication be better? Could myself as a commissioner, my communication be better? It could be. I won't doubt that. I don't think that anyone would say that our communication is perfect. I will say that the communication that's been going out is constantly evolving and constantly improving and getting better, and is good. But there's always room for improvement and for growth. And in that regard, I do have to just take a second to highlight and to applaud our police department. Our police department, when made aware of these situations, and I can't speak on individual cases or individual matters, but I can say that our police department has done a great job upon becoming made aware of the situation in actively and aggressively addressing it. In conversations, in our executive session, outside of the sessions, and here, at my first ward meeting, at the other ward meetings, we've learned a lot of information of what the police are doing in terms of being involved, working with the school district, not just our school district, but neighboring township school districts, working with the district attorney's office. And I think what makes this different than things that have happened in the past, or the recent past, I should say, is that this involves juveniles, and the rules are different when it involves juveniles. There are a lot of different rules involving confidentiality. There's a lot of different rules, with regards to what we can, as government officials, actually say, what the police department can actually say, and what they can broadcast. There's the system is different. The police are, the district attorney spoke about the juvenile criminal system. The way that the police bring charges are different. It's not ideal from a parent's point of view who wants to hear information and wants to know what's going on right away immediately. But I do want to take a second to assure you that our police department it's an excellent department. They have taken this matter very seriously. They are working very aggressively to address address all of your concerns. But the best I can say is, let's all collectively, we need to remain vigilant and work as a group in order to restore that level of confidence and that level of comfort that our children absolutely should have. They must have. And to the extent that I can be of any assistance in that, I think that I think I say this on behalf of all of the commissioners, that we stand ready as a collective group to work with the police department to give them any resources that they may need to better address not just this situation, but other situations.
Thank you, Commissioner Gondik. Is there any other commissioner like to speak on this topic?
Yes, I would like to, because a lot of these happen right in my ward, so I wanted to address that as well. Like, I grew up in this town, as most and back in my day, we were chased out of the Grange when it got dark. It wasn't because we were bad; it was just because it was against the rules. But now you should not be afraid to walk in this town. That makes me upset to hear that kids want to leave this town. This town's the best place to live, and it will continue to be because we have the best police. And anytime that I've ever asked the police anything, because I've had issues with this park here, and I ask the police, and we meet and we talk and we try to solve all of the issues that we can. And I see the police are there at night to watch over there. We have the lights on late. They're on to help out that too. And I don't know. I was not on this board when we passed the curfew. I know that Larry and Bill were, but I don't know if there is a way to strengthen that to make it. I don't know. We could discuss this in a work set as well. But I just wanted to say that the police, anything that you guys need, as Brian said, I know that this board will support you to make sure that we can take care of this issue.
Thank you, Commissioner Quinn. Any other commissioner like to speak on this topic?
I'll just like to make an observation. I appreciate what Brian said. We need the parents. I mean, the parents that were here are the kids that were attacked or are scared, but the parents of any of the perpetrators aren't here. It does take. I have 4 grown daughters. I have 9 grandchildren. I've learned a long time ago that peer pressure is a lot stronger than parental pressure, and that you need to overcome a lot of that. And it's hard. And I had a lot of calls, even though the 9th Ward is on the other side of the township, far away from where the actions happen. And people, somebody made a comment about an attitude of suppression. There's sort of a misconception that we know more than you do during an incident. When our police department is out policing, they're not calling 9 different commissioners to tell us what's going on. We don't find out what an incident's about, whether it be a fire or an attack in there, the shootings, anything, until a day or 2 later. And then we try and get the information out. We don't interfere with our police department when they're in the process of doing police work, just as we don't interfere with the fire departments when they're in the process of putting out a fire. The last thing we want to do, or we would expect, is to get a call from the chief of police, whether there's a high-speed chase going on or something's going on. It's going to demand 100% of our leadership's attention to get the situation resolved. So that's been a misconception. I've been doing this job for about 14 and a half years. And it continually amazes me that people think we know more than we do way before you do. We might get it a day or 2 before you or after the facts, and we'll get those. They won't give us information that's rumored or not 100% factual. So that's maybe the advantage we have, and that's why we have to wait. But we want good police work to do, so we get the actual facts, so that when we're questioned, and I was questioned and met with neighbors in different blocks and at the Hilltop Civic Association meeting, we want to put out the actual facts and what happened, not the rumors and not everything that we hear. So that's it's just something we have to live with and try and get the actual factual information. But again, I'll commend our police departments, our fire departments, our paramedics. They respect the rights, your rights, if they arrested your child or even go to your house. We're not privy to information of what goes on in individual houses unless it becomes public. We're not allowed to have that information, or else our solicitor would slap us on the wrist, or it would be in violation of certain statutes. So, but we do need parental help to corral these kids. We can't do it. I had one woman call me and she said, what can you do? And I'm like, we have a police department. Our police department is going to go out and police. They're going to arrest the kids. They're going to cite them. They may, being young, they're going to cite them. They're going to get disorderly conduct, summonses or whatever you get. And the parents have to go pick them up at the police station if they're taken there. And that's then we know that the parents are informed of that. And the woman said, why should my kid get a summons? He's in a crowd, in a disorderly crowd. He's going to be cited for disorderly conduct. He's part of that. My advice to you is tell your kids, get away. Don't be part of the crowd. My oldest daughter tells her kids, if you see the cops, run. So, because she doesn't want them to get that thing. She doesn't want to see that citation on some website when the kid wants to go to college in 2 years and, writes an essay about how great he and she are, and then has a disorderly conduct summons that pops up on a website when they do a background check on them for a scholarship or something like that. So we do need the parents to come and parent with us, and we'll do everything we can to assist. But as you can tell from the groups that were here, the parents that we need the most help from are not here, and we need parental pressure on the kids as well as, because our police will do a great job, but they're going to do police work. And that means citing people and getting them into a system to help the youth, as the district attorney explained to us, which I thought he did a great job. I'd like to publicly thank him for being here. That was a great coup. Thank God he's a resident of our township, and he saw fit to come and explain things to us as well. So that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Wexler. Would any other commissioner like to speak?
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Forster-Grubb.
I'd like to reiterate some of the points the other commissioners have made, that we care very much about what happened back in September. And we can all imagine our own child or a little brother or sister being caught up in that. And it is a dreadful thought, and not one that you ever want to, get that phone call or have your child come home in tears, or get a call from the hospital because you have to go get your child from the hospital because they've been hurt. And the township police department has been working very hard to try and get this situation, I wouldn't say under control, but to get the system in place to try and help the students to recover, the ones who, were at school and are afraid, and also the ones who did these terrible things. We all need to come together to help the students, because I've seen what a toll COVID has had upon the young people as a teacher. And it is terrible. And it comes in many different forms. And it's going to take a very long time for us to move past what the pandemic has wrought upon us as individuals, as families, as communities. And it is a terrible price. But if we all come together, we can heal and grow and make sure that Haverford Township is a great place for everyone to live. Everyone. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Forster-Grubb. Would anybody else like to address this? Hearing no other comments, we return to the agenda. Next on the agenda is new business. Is there any commissioner who has any new business to bring before us tonight?
We did not have the Haverford Township Bureau of Fire report for September. If with your permission, I'd like to provide that.
So if you just quickly move to add it to the agenda, I'm sure by voice vote, we will all approve it.
Move to add that to the agenda.
Second.
So moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We now have an agenda item. That would be the recitation of the Bureau of Fire report by Commissioner Wexler.
Yes, for the month of September, there were 116 fire calls responded to by the township. The average personnel per call was 15.8 members. There were 71 hours committed to firefighting. There were 195 hours committed to training. The Bon Air Fire Company participated in 9/11 ceremony at Rose Tree Park and the Mainline Chamber 5-kilometer race. Companies also participated in live training at 417 College Avenue before the house was demolished. And the Bureau of Fire would like to give their thanks to Rayer Builders for allowing them to train in the facility before it was demolished. And for those who don't know, they do things like fireman rescue. They can cut holes in the floor and simulate a firefighter falling through a burning floor to a basement or from a second floor, an attic down there, and being able to hoist them up and go through the emergency procedures. That's very important. It's unique to get one of those houses, and it's a good thing for us to train in. The companies participated in 10 block parties throughout the township. And on the 29th of September, our two rescue companies, Oakmont and Manoa, responded to an accident with entrapment in the 500 block of Ellis Road and extracted two patients for the paramedic department to transport. That's the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Wexler. I will ask our chief to address the methods and timelines of the information that we provide, that the PD and the township provide to people in events like this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just if I could start off with it, we understand and how people feel about what has happened in this township. We live here also. I lived here my whole life along with the deputy chief, and we feel the same pain you do when we see these sort of things happen, and we do our absolute best. But we are limited to what we can do, as the district attorney explained. But I asked the commissioner if I could explain how the police department puts information out for any type of serious incident that we can make the constituents aware of how this information goes out. So using this particular incident, we were made aware of around 5 o'clock in the morning what had transpired as the safe to say reports came in to the police department and the school district, making us aware of what the incidents had occurred and then what the police had responded to also on that weekend. As we move forward with our investigation, our IT department and deputy chief puts it out on, Joe.
We put it out on all our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We put out that we're aware of the incident took place because we were just made aware of that incident that morning. And if anyone had any information, to contact us. During the course of that, we were able to obtain the video depicting the one assault, and then we were actually able to obtain other videos that went along with this. At that point, that's when we started reaching out to individuals that were depicted in that video that we perceived as victims from the assaults. And in the beginning, we did not receive a cooperation. So that kind of hampered the investigation in the beginning, but we continued to move forward and were able to identify the juveniles. As we said, they're going through the process now.
And this is also placed on our website. So as information evolves, we try and change it to keep everybody aware of what's going on. The news stations always call us. I always call them back. I always give them information. So we don't hide anything. We give out what we can give out, as the district attorney and the commissioners have said. We're limited to what we can do with juveniles, but we had some serious incidents and we felt that everybody should be aware of it. And as the commissioners had said, I don't notify them for everything that goes down the line, but anything serious, the information goes shared back and forth along with the citizens. So what you guys get, they get the same thing. So we do the best we can to put the information out there. And I know at our constituent meeting, your constituent meeting last week, some of the senior citizens don't look at these platforms. We understand that. And what we asked that the neighbors who do follow this stuff to notify their neighbors who don't look at the social media stuff. So we live in a world of phones and computers and iPads, and that's how everybody communicates. So we feel this is the best way we can get it out. We're always looking for better ways to spread the information, and it's an evolving thing. So we do our best, and we share what we can, especially in serious incidents. We want you as citizens to know what's going on.
Thank you, Chief. Does any other commissioner have any new business to bring before the board? We'll now move to other business. I will begin with Commissioner Gondik.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Gondik, can I interrupt you?
Absolutely.
Just before we get to other business, let me just make a few announcements with regard to next month in November. We do not hold a work session in November. That would so our regularly scheduled meeting will be Monday, November the 14th. We also in November have our preliminary budget meeting on Monday, November the 21st. And with regard to all the boards and commissions and advisory groups that the township that we as a board and we as a township use, the deadline for submissions for resumes for consideration of being appointed to those boards or being reappointed to those boards in the event a term is expiring is Friday, November the 11th. Ask everybody to send that in prior to then to the township. They can go on the township website to find out that information. So thank you. Sorry for the interruption, Mr. Gondik. The floor is yours.
No problem. Actually, sir, who's leaving right now, I just wanted to circle back to the comp plan. I was on if you go to the website, the button is still actually there. It's just lower down on the screen. It says comp plan update. So if you're looking to see the updated comp plan that has just been revised, towards the bottom on the right hand of the homepage for the township, there's a button called comp plan update, and that will link you over to where the current plan is. That being said, I do want to start off my comments with a heartfelt apology. When I planned my first ward constituent meeting, community meeting, I was obviously looking at the calendar and trying to ascertain a day that worked best for all of the various township officials who showed up and would be, readily available for the residents of the first ward to attend. And I did check the calendar to try to avoid conflicting with religious holidays. However, I made an error. And my meeting, which was scheduled for last Tuesday, did in fact I was advised a few days before the meeting that it did conflict with Yom Kippur. And so I wanted to take a moment at this meeting to personally and heartfeltly apologize to not just any of my constituents in the first ward, but to anyone in the township or beyond who obviously celebrates that holiday. It is one of the holiest days for the people of Jewish faith. And so I do want to just take a second to apologize for that. It was an unfortunate an unfortunate error on my part, and I will learn from it moving forward. That being said, a couple of quick announcements. The Westgate Hills Civic Association first off, I'd just like to congratulate them. They just had their Bricktoberfest this past weekend. Very successful, great turnout, great weather. And they have a lot of good things coming down the road also. Their next event that they're planning is Sunday, October 30th at 11 a.m. at Westgate Hills Park. It's their Halloween costume contest. Again, very family-friendly event. If you can, please come out and support them. There are also still bricks available for their Heart of Westgate memorial that they're building in the upper corner of the park. I encourage you to adopt a brick. It's not just a great way to support the Civic Association and the endeavors that they are undertaking, but it also allows you to, help memorialize either yourself, your family, or even if it's just something you want to say. The Civic Association is also still partnering with the Shade Tree, Shade Tree Group. And there are still shade trees that are available through that program. They're coming in the end of October, and then they will be planted for free. So if you're interested in receiving a shade tree through the Westgate Park Civic Association, please feel free to contact them. I believe they still have a couple left, but I know that they were kind of going quickly. So don't miss out on that opportunity. The only other thing that I'll throw out there, other than those events, is we talked about leaf season is coming up. Please be careful. Leaves on the ground, especially when they get wet, can actually be just as dangerous as ice. So as you're out there driving, be conscientious of that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gondik. Commissioner Forstey-Grubb.
I just wanted to repeat what Commissioner Wexler said earlier, that the Lanark Fire Company is having an open house this Friday from 6:30 to 8:30, and there will be lots of activities for adults and children, as well as pretzels, I have read. Also, the library is hosting their Dewey Decimal Dash and Run on Saturday, November 5th at 8 a.m. If you want to go to the Haverford Township Free Library, you can register to run or walk in support of the library. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Forstey-Grubb. Commissioner McCluskey.
Just want to start out with letting everyone know that the Finance Committee did meet last Monday night after our work session in preparation for the budget next month. As Commissioner Holmes indicated, the preliminary budget meeting is November 21st, and then the date that is scheduled to hopefully have the final adoption is December 12th at 7 p.m. Next November 21st is also at 7 p.m. So that'll be a presentation about the initial budget. And then that budget, as soon as it's presented at that meeting on the 21st, it will be available on the township website the next day for the public to see. And then, any revisions or anything that take place in terms of a final adoption, they'll also be open for public comment before that. As was mentioned, the Oakmont Fire Company has their open house this Thursday night, if anybody can make it out. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner McCluskey. Commissioner Cavender.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody who came to our town hall meeting last week on Thursday. It was for wards 5 and 6. We had most of township staff, as I mentioned, Chief Viola, Deputy Chief Hagan, Amy Cuthbertson. We covered a number of topics, and I want to thank all the Fifth Ward folks who attended. Like I said, crime was big on the agenda. The comprehensive plan was discussed, and I just want everyone to keep in mind there will be 2 more public discussions of the comprehensive plan in October, the 13th and the 27th. And I think the thing that I took away from the town hall meeting, it was my first town hall, other than just sitting down face to face with people, is, we have all of these mechanisms that we can communicate with each other now, whether it's social media. Some of us choose to do that. You know, we send messages out as a township, as a police department, as commissioners. We have town hall meetings where we gather, but there's no substitute for going to your neighbor and speaking with them. Or if you're concerned, speak with your neighbors, speak with your kids, because we're all doing the best we can to communicate all the information that we have. And I really believe those kind of, you know, sitting down and talking about issues is so much more productive than posting things on social media. And I think you should rely on your local government to provide you with the information that you need on these topics. So I know that's what we try to do, is stay factual. I wanted to give a quick update on Polo Field. So in February, we talked about a request we had received from Lower Merion to switch out the use of the fields at Polo Field for their softball teams. They have a new middle school. So it's a switching out of the use. It's not new use. And so we've been having really productive conversations with them on how we might be able to invest in the park and improve it for the township, as we all look for ways to share the use of the field. It's been shared for the last, I think, 70 years, 80 years, for children of the community, because the park is right by the line of the township. So we hope to have more news on that soon. I'm going to send out more details in my newsletter to folks who are most interested in the neighborhood, but wanted to address that. Most of the vote by mail ballots were sent by the county this weekend. So I know I received mine and my husband received his today. So look for those. And if you have any questions about mail-in ballots, where to put your ballot, what the process is, because it is, you know, there's requirements, as there should be for a secure election. And the website that you need to go to find out more is delcopa.gov/Dropbox. There's a ton of information on there, but that's just a quick one. A couple of events I wanted to mention. Mainline Greenway Ride on October 23rd starts and stops at Haverford College. It's going to travel to Manayunk and back, taking trails and exploring the area. Preston Park is hosting a trunk or treat on Saturday, the 22nd from 1 to 3. If you'd like to have more information on that, you can email brynfordca, that's brynfordca@gmail.com. Another event in the 5th Ward on the 22nd is the BIPOC Parents of Haverford Township is hosting a cultural fall festival on College Green. And last but not least, the leaf pickup weeks for Ward 5 are November 7th and December 5th, and I'll be sharing that schedule as well soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cavender. Commissioner Quinn.
Thank you, Larry. I'd like to thank everybody who came out to the Billy Lake AOS games. It was a great day. They raised more than they've ever raised, which was great to see the community out. I'm happy to say that I did not play any ball that day, so there weren't any of the EMS teams coming to help me out. So that's good.
They appreciate the break, Commissioner Quinn.
The leaf schedules are out for the 7th Ward, and November 7th, the week of that week, and the week of December 12th will be when the leaves will be picked up. But that all depends on snow, which we won't get, we all hope, and rain and stuff like that. So but they'll get it done. And between now and our next board meeting, I know that everybody will go out to vote. And I thank all that work the polls that day. So when you walk by, be nice to all of them. I know we all may not agree, but these people volunteer their time. Some don't even get paid that much, but they do it to help us be able to vote and look at all of the issues when you vote. And fire prevention, Chief Woods, okay, great, thank you. And thank you to all the volunteers. I see it every day. There is a lot that live around the area there, and every time you hear the horn, you don't see them hop into their cars. They live around the block, so they'll just run to the firehouse, which is great to see our community, and it's also great to see young kids involved now too. And communication, that's always a big thing for me. So if you're not on my email list, please send me an email, and you can hop on that list and get all the good stuff. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Quinn. Commissioner Hart.
Yes, thank you. Number of announcements. The Penfield Civic Association is sponsoring movie night this Friday night at the Grange. Food trucks will be there at 6:30. The movie, which is Coco, starts at 7. The Parks Department is going to be having a couple of public meetings coming up in the next month. The first public meeting for the Brookline Park planning meeting with our consultant will be Monday, October 24th. And then the first public meeting for the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan, which is the equivalent of the Parks Comprehensive Plan, will be on November 9th. Both those meetings are, as I said, open to the public, and they will be at the CREC. The Shade Tree Commission is sponsoring its annual Shade Tree Giveaway. It's a lottery which people can, township residents can enter. They will be giving away 100 shade trees free of cost. You can enter the lottery by, it's open now. It will close on October 27th. And as I said, it's open to all township residents. And then a couple of things from the Senior Advisory Council. They have up now a senior survey, and they're asking residents to respond to it. It's available on our website. The responses to these questions will provide a blueprint for how Haverford Township can better address current and future needs of their senior residents. And it will only take a few minutes of your time to complete. And they're asking anyone who's 65 or older to log into the township website and complete the survey. Anyone who's having difficulty with that can just call the township and they'll get some assistance. And finally, there is also a Haverford Township Senior Open House, which is next Wednesday, October 19th from 6 to 8. This is an opportunity to meet and interact with the Senior Advisory Council members and let them know what Haverford seniors want and need in their community. RSVP is available on the website. There will be some presentations, also a variety of hors d'oeuvres, desserts, and light refreshments available. Registration deadline is this Friday. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Hart. Commissioner Wexler.
Yes, and if anybody has problems with that survey, Commissioner Hart and I are the only two up here that are eligible to take it, so we'll let you know how tough it is. Several things in order. Happy Halloween. We talked about the safety of our children. They're precious. That's a very dangerous night. Make sure they're lit. They're supervised, especially the younger ones. It gets dark real early. The night before that's another big night for our older youth, and I'm sure our police department will be out there on mischief night as well. Second thing is we hope to see all of you on Election Day. I know they talked about the mail-in ballots. Please come out and vote. November the 8th, 7 in the morning till 8 at night. Everybody's there working hard, but it's our duty, it's our right. Please come and do it. It's very frustrating for us when we get very low turnout. We need everybody, tell your neighbors to come out. It's the only thing you've got to say. If you're dissatisfied with things that elected officials do, vote us out. That's the way it works. It's the greatest thing about our democracy. And the last thing is our leaf collection. The 9th Ward is the week of 11/14 and the week of 12/19. So that's November 14th and December 19th. Couple quick rules. You can't bag the leaves. I get calls, my leaves weren't picked up. Do not put the leaves in a bag. Take them to what I call the dog walk. Don't put them in the street. Put them right on the curb, not in the street. They'll come by and pick them up. Bag leaves will not be collected. And when we say the week of the 9th Ward, they've got to be out there by Monday morning on that week. We don't know what streets they're picking up. Again, it's that misconception. We know exactly what street Public Works is going to be on. They're going to be in our ward that week. They could be on street. They don't do it alphabetically. They just do it by ward. They show up where they're filling off. So have your leaves out by that Monday morning for that week and go from there. So thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Wexler. Commissioner Trombetta.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few really quick announcements. Discover Haverford is having their annual meeting on this Thursday, October 13th at 6:30 p.m. at the Crack. There you'll hear about the work that Discover Haverford has been doing over the year. Hear from our Assistant Township Manager, Amy Cuthbertson, about our partnership. And you'll also see a presentation of the annual Awards of Excellence from Discover Haverford, which includes none other than Mario Oliva for the Donald Kelly Award for Civic Engagement, Sweets on Darby for the Eye Catching Award, and Four Guys and Sons for the Standing Ovation Award. So congratulations in advance to all of the award winners. Also, I just wanted to reiterate that the Oakmont Fire Company is having their open house also on Thursday, October 13th, and that's taking place from 7 to 8 p.m. And I just want to extend my thanks, of course, to our 5 volunteer firefighter companies working hard and saving lives. So thank you. That's it for me tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner Trombetta. A couple of quick things. The leaf schedule. Here's the entire leaf schedule for everybody. Starting the week of Halloween, wards 1 through 4. The following week, the week of the 7th, 5, 6, and 7. The week of the 14th, 8 and 9. If weather cooperates, that will be done in those first 3 weeks. The second collection will start the week of the 21st. That is a short week, as everybody knows. It's Thanksgiving. So wards 1 and 2 will be the week of the 21st. Wards 3 and 4 will be the week after Thanksgiving, the week of the 28th of November. Wards 5 and 6, the week of the 5th of December. Wards 7 and 8 in the week of the 12th of December. And finally, the week of the 19th, Ward 9. And as always happens, Public Works will also make one last tour before the new year, usually to go through different wards to see what they missed. And of course, this all has to be taken, we have to take weather into account. But I just wanted to state that entire schedule out for everybody to hear it for the ward. I do want to thank a number of people who participated in Commissioner Cavender's and my constituent meeting. Assistant Township Manager and Finance Director Amy Cuthbertson, Joe Celia and Steve Poole, Brian Barrett, and Chief Viola and Deputy Chief Hagan. It was an excellent, almost 3-hour meeting. We covered a lot of topics. I want to send out my warmest appreciation to my colleague, Commissioner Cavender, to co-host this with me, and thank our constituents in the 6th and 5th Ward who took the time that night to come out, talk about what was on their mind, and listen to others as well as listen to us as we tried to address their issues. People have discussed communications, and the one thing I would suggest to everybody listening, everybody who is here, the single best way to guarantee that you will get up-to-date information from the township is to go on the township website and sign up for the township email. That goes out to everybody. The township email did go out and report certain of the crime events that were discussed earlier, and also lots of other events that relate to the township. It is the single best and most effective way to guarantee that you will get information from the township, so I can't recommend it strongly enough. Please go on the township website and sign up for the Constant Contact email, and then you will not miss things like leave schedules, scheduled meetings, planning commission, the things that the township puts out. Finally, between now and our next meeting will be Election Day. I can't stress enough. the importance of educating yourself about the candidates, about their different views, and then voting. It's the single most important thing we do as Americans. It's the single most important thing we do as Haverford Township residents, is to vote. So please do. I would look forward to seeing all of you on Election Day. And with that, I will invite a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.